Lavender Literary Society members and guests, good evening and welcome to the first author talk of the 2026 season. This evening, we're honored to present Kaila Adia Story's book, The Rainbow Ain't Never Been Enough, on the myth of LGBTQ plus solidarity. In this urgent and incisive work, queer Black feminist Kaila Adia Story challenges the myth of rainbow solidarity, centering Black and Latinx LGBTQ plus people and exposing how racism, transphobia, and anti-Blackness persist within mainstream queer spaces. Blending theory, pop culture, and lived experience, Story invites us to imagine a more accountable and inclusive future for LGBTQ plus communities. My name is Suhaili Bautista. I'm the Chief of Programs at the American LGBTQ Plus Museum, a new cultural institution dedicated to preserving, researching, and sharing LGBTQ plus history and culture. Our vision is a world where all people experience the joy of queer liberation. I am a Black Latinx woman. I'm wearing dark red lipstick and straight black hair and silver hoops. While our first physical galleries are still a few years into the future, our work as a museum is already underway. Over the past 3 years, we have produced a robust slate of free public programming with partners across the country, toured an award-winning exhibition to 5 major US cities, and launched our Lavender Literary Society book club, which you're experiencing this evening. When we open our doors as New York City's newest museum, we will tell the stories of queer people across time, place, and identity. The museum will be a space for celebration, remembrance, and connection, a place where queer magic is real, our ancestors are honored, and our stories are told with power and pride. But you don't have to wait until 2028 to be part of our story. You can join us now through public programs like this one, traveling exhibitions, our newsletter, book club, or by becoming a founding member. Every gift of support, every act of visibility helps build this museum from the ground up. You can learn more about the American LGBTQ Plus Museum at americanlgbtqmuseum.org. For those of you joining the Lavender Literary Society for the first time this evening, we'd like to begin by sharing a bit about our book club. The American LGBTQ Plus Museum Book Club is a space for community and connection, bridging generations through the magic of storytelling. Our titles are a mix of popular queer history and memoir with inspiring authors and iconic guest facilitators. Through virtual and in-person gatherings, we aim to ignite intergenerational dialogue and foster understanding, empathy, and unity. Together, we traverse the landscapes of queer culture, savoring the nuances and complexities that make our stories uniquely ours. This isn't just a book club, it's a movement. Reading together becomes a powerful act, a catalyst for change, and a testament to the resilience of the LGBTQ plus spirit. Participants will be a part of something extraordinary. In this book club, we won't just read, we'll weave the threads of our stories into a tapestry of strength, resilience, and pride. Now it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's author. Kaila Adia Story, PhD, is a professor in the departments of Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies and Pan-African Studies, as well as the Audre Lorde Endowed Chair at the University of Louisville. She is the author of The Rainbow Ain't Never Been Enough, on the myth of LGBTQ plus solidarity, and Reconceiving Motherhood. She's also the co-creator, co-producer, and co-host of Louisville Public Media's Strange Fruit, Musings on Politics, Pop Culture, and Black Gay Life, a popular award-winning 8-year running podcast. Her research examines the intersections of race and sexuality, with special attention to Black feminism, Black lesbians, and Black queer identity. Dr. Story was named as an LGBTQ plus community leader and changemaker as a part of NBC's inaugural Pride 30, as well as, and recently, Dr. Story was chosen as the 2022 Champion of Pride for the state of Kentucky by The Advocate. Dr. Story has also received recognition from Michelle Obama's nonprofit organization, Reach Higher, for creating safe spaces for LGBTQ plus students in and out of higher education. And our host, Alexis Pauline Gumbs, is a queer Black feminist, love evangelist, and an aspirational cousin to all life. They are the author of several books. Most recently, the award-winning Survival is a Promise, The Eternal Life of Audre Lorde, and Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals. They are the co-founder of the Mobile Homecoming Trust, an intergenerational experiential living library of Black LGBTQ plus brilliance. It is now my pleasure to welcome Kaila and Alexis to the virtual stage.
Hey, yay.
Hey!
I'm
Oh my goodness.
excited.
I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this day. Welcome again, everyone. My name's Alexis Pauline Gumbs. I'm facilitating tonight, and I am a Black lesbian with curly black and silver hair and some multicolored earrings with cowrie shells, sitting in a space full of books and one plant. and um, before I start gushing about how excited I am to be here, Caleb, feel free to presence yourself.
Yes. So I'm Kaila Story. And I am also a Black lesbian. I have locks that are kind of brown to like I'd say dark brown to black. I also have big silver hoops. I have a fake background with a fake bookshelf, so don't try to get into the titles. But it's my Zoom background, but it's like a bookshelf, like a white bookshelf with a number of books. And that's me.
Okay. All of you who are here have made such the right decision to come to this inaugural of the year book event. Kyla, I just have to say, I try to say this when I'm celebrating you on social media, but I just want to say, while we're in the presence of everyone in this book club, that I am grateful to you for being who you are. In a time where so many things make no sense, something that always makes poetic, perfect sense to me is that you, Kyla, are the endowed Audre Lorde professor. Because, sometimes when you're an endowed professor and there's a name there, it's just like that's where the money came from, or, it's just symbolic. And, of course, Audre Lorde makes all of our Black lesbian feminist scholarship possible. But y'all, the bio couldn't be as long as it could possibly be, but I just have to let you know that year after year, Kyla wins, I think, one of the most telling awards that an educator can win, which is that students again and again and again testify that you have transformed their lives, that you have allowed them to understand that they're possible, that you have really kicked open the door for their love for themselves and for our communities. And I've met your students, and they're not only saying that when it's time to fill out the form for that award. They really testify to the grace that you live with. And I just feel like Audre Lorde, who really lived to empower the generations of us that come after her, would be so, 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 so proud of what you
Oh my
do
goodness.
in her name.
Alexis, you're gonna make me tear up. And I'm such a crier too. Thank you
But this
so
is
much. Oh
the
my
people
goodness.
have to know, because I mean, this book is absolutely also an expression of that. And, the community accountable intersectional analysis that you bring in this book, the generosity of sharing your own story that you bring in this book, of course, also follows in the footsteps of Audre Lorde. But I just need people to know that we were saying this a little bit before we got on. Like, this book is amazing, and it still can't hold the amazingness of who you are. And it's important for me that everybody who attends this understands that, yes, you speak eloquently and brilliantly about these ideas in this book, but the impact that you're having on people's lives is absolutely true to the words that you say. So I had to start there because this is a huge honor for me to get to be a part of how you share your work with this community. And just in case, probably a lot of people here know that, and that's why they're here. But for anyone who doesn't know, this is not just this is not just words for Kaila. This is love in action, and I witness it, and it really is operating on a national scale. So thank you
Oh
for
my
being
goodness.
who
Thank
you
you
are.
so much for that. That means so much to me. My one, the honor is mine. I mean, one, I'm a huge, huge fan of your spirit, of your generosity, of your gift of writing, of teaching, of being a spiritual guide for our community, enriching our lives with your work and your time. So the honor is mine, and my favorite thing to do is to share, the things that I've learned, and so it means quite a bit to me that students who I feel like I'm sharing with, I know we're supposed to be like teaching them, right? But I feel like more of a facilitator to their own brilliance that they enter the room with that expands through reading, right? And I've always thought storytelling, in particular, the way that Lord has done it, as one of our best pathways to our own truth, to societal truth, communal truth. I mean, our stories have so much meaning beyond them just being gossip or fodder. And so you seeing me and my commitments and my work honors me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So we're here to celebrate this victory of a book.
Yeah.
The Rainbow Ain't Never Been Enough. Would you honor us with a short reading from the book to start?
Yes, yes. So I'm going to read some of chapter one, and it's called On the Myth and Reality of the Rainbow. When I was a girl, my mom and I would frequently travel to Ohio from our home in Ann Arbor, Michigan, to visit her family. While I love spending time with my grandparents in their tiny town of Middletown, I would often beg to visit my aunt and uncle in Cincinnati under the pretense of playing in their large, lavish house. Truthfully, I just wanted to see their art, all of their Black art. They had busts, sculptures, paintings almost on every wall, and I would gaze for hours at every item. There was a particular piece that captivated me every time I laid my eyes on it. The painting, which I found out later was a poster, had a melancholy faced Black woman sitting in what looked to be a bathroom or subway terminal because of the white tile wall behind her. There was a phrase written next to the woman's despondent face, etched in exquisite rainbow lettering. It read, "For colored girls who considered suicide when the rainbow is enough." It wrecked me every time I read it. I would wonder, why was this beautiful Black woman contemplating suicide? And why was she referring to herself as colored when it was 1988? My kid, when it was 1988, and most Black people I knew called themselves Black American or African American. In fact, the only time I had ever heard the term colored used was when my paternal grandmother explained to me to never let anyone, especially white people, call me colored or Negro. She said racial terminology for Black people had changed over time and those terms weren't acceptable anymore. Prior to seeing the poster, I had never heard of suicide in reference to Black women either. The only knowledge I had of suicide was the word being uttered during a Lifetime movie my mama made me watch during one of our weekend movie marathons. Even then, there weren't any Black women in that film or any Lifetime movie in the 1980s that we watched. Even though I had all of these silent contemplations about my aunt and uncle's magnificent poster, I never posed these questions to them or my mama. Instead, I would just stare at it in awe every time I visited. I wasn't introduced to Ntozake Shange's work and didn't learn about the political and cultural significance of For Colored Girls Who Had Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough until I was a graduate student and had the opportunity to read her 1975 choral poem, For Colored Girls. For Colored Girls is a Black girl song, an ancient yet contemporary tune that allows a Black girl like me to begin to know herself, see herself. It allows Black girls to become familiar with their own voices, souls, genders. Shange's work enlightened me to the complexity of living within the intersection of gender and race, and how those complexities related to the life chances and choices for me as a Black lesbian woman. Although I'd been living within this identity all my life, I had yet thought about my existence theoretically, how my reality was interconnected with those who came before me and with those who would come after me. Shange's work showed me how my social political embodiment directly affected my ability to even dream about something as universal as love. Like Shange's characters, I would have to navigate a racist, homophobic, and sexist world that chose not to recognize my humanity nor my fragility as a sentient being in ways it did for others. Through his words, I would realize that I wasn't the only Black girl, now woman, grappling with this reality. The next time I visited, I asked my aunt, oh, I changed her name to Aunt Nay. In the book, I call her Aunt Gail because that's her official name. But we took call her Aunt Nay. Because her middle name Renee. That's how Black people do, right? So never by the government, always by the loving name, right? So I said Aunt Nay. I love how I inverted that, but in the book, I say Gail, but that's the same person for folks. The next time I asked my Aunt Gail if I could have her poster, she promptly said no. For my aunt, the poster represented more than art as it did for me. It represented her own song, the discovery of her own voice. The reasons I wanted it for myself are the same reasons she didn't want to give it to me. Luckily for me, though, after some negotiation, my aunt gave it to me, and it has remained with me ever since. This is part of the reason why I chose The Rainbow Ain't Never Been Enough as part of the title of this book. Shange's work, love, and now ancestral light for Black girls has remained a great influence on my own work. Her metaphorical use of the rainbow as a symbol of the multifaceted and complex lived experiences of Black women struggling with and surviving racial and gendered oppression within and outside of Black communities is a brilliant illustration of the difficulty of unearthing and unraveling the complex and intricate nature of a people who represent multi-axes of difference. As a Black lesbian, feminist, and femme-identified academic specializing in Black queer and Black feminist studies, I thought that it was only fitting to borrow and honor this metaphor of the rainbow to explore the white supremacist and dominant representations of LGBTQ plus people's lived experiences and identities, which has now become ubiquitous throughout popular culture. The rainbow is a long-standing image for queer and trans communities. In fact, it was a tiny rainbow in the corner of a shop located in Ann Arbor, Michigan's gayborhood that drew me in. I was still a gayby at the time. um, and the rainbow represented a pathway into a new queer world. The shop turned out to be an LGBTQ plus bookstore that housed documentaries, films, and books about our history, politics, and life. I would spend hours after school devouring the anthologies dedicated to coming out stories, watching What Happened at Stonewall, and flipping through the photography books that showed our community members in beautiful and resilient ways. It was also in this bookstore that I learned that in 1978, artist and peace aids activist Gilbert Baker was commissioned by the openly gay politician Harvey Milk to create the rainbow flag to represent the multidimensional nature and pride of queer and trans people. Each color of the rainbow was intended to represent the diversity and solidarity of our communities, visually capturing our nuances, differences, sameness, and complex identities. The flag was created as a symbol to not only spread love and inclusivity, but also to counter sexual and gendered regulation within mainstream society. Leaders, community change makers, and inclusive businesses display the flag in stores, offices, and schools as a symbol of solidarity and to express their support and welcome of people belonging to such communities. However, throughout time, some of the most vulnerable yet resilient people within our communities have not found the rainbow marker to symbolize the diversity and inclusion or solidarity that it claims. For many, the flag has symbolized terror, racial and gendered terror to be specific, causing many to disidentify from the flag's symbol, use, and consumption. For example, in 1973, Sylvia Rivera took the stage at one of the first gay pride parade celebrations in New York. She was booed, told to shut up, misgendered, and subjected to objects being thrown at her by the mostly white, mostly cis, strikingly racist audience. She repeatedly stated, "Y'all better quiet down." As an activist, Rivera, along with Marsha P. Johnson, founded the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries shortly after the Stonewall Rebellion in 1969, and both she and Johnson worked tirelessly to protect transgender and street youth whose needs and identities weren't being recognized by early gay groups. Desiring to untether the mafia's control over queer and trans bars and nightlife, Johnson and Rivera created the first LGBTQ shelter in the US, the first sex worker labor organization, the first trans woman of color organization. They expanded their mission and goals to other cities until the organization's collapse in the mid-1970s. Marsha P. No Mind Johnson stood at the helm of LGBTQ rights for nearly 25 years, serving as a central figure and activist. And y'all really need to check out Tourmaline's Marsha. Oh, knock it off. That book, please. Anyway, okay. She became a resounding voice for those living with HIV/AIDS and for those Black and Latinx LGBTQ people who had to navigate and suffer through gay racism. As a political agitator who lived at the intersections of racism, homophobia, and transphobia, Johnson, along with Rivera, helped to transform public consciousness when it came to queer liberation. Yet in 1992, Johnson's body was found floating in the Hudson River, and the circumstances surrounding her death remain a mystery to this day. Rivera died of liver cancer, houseless, and in a shelter in 2002. So even before Baker's creation of the pride flag itself, many Black and Latinx queer and trans folks dealt with antagonism, violence, ridicule, disregard, and neglect by members of their own community, despite the mainstream perception of unity. So.
I could listen to you read for the whole night. Thank you for reading. I mean, and what a wonderful excerpt to read. I love the way that you bring us in. I mean, that poster of For Colored Girls is also ingrained on the inside of my eyelids, but to
Right?
bring that ritual of Black feminist transformation and salvation, I mean, it's just, the way that you bring us in there, situate us in your own family and the loving creativity and the resonance of that work in your family, and then bring us to Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and the beauty and the life-saving ritual of creating Star. And in the middle, there's this idea of the rainbow flag, right?
Right.
And the contrast, for me, this rich contrast of what are the ceremonies that are actually transformatively, inclusively changing our lives, and what is the flat representation of
Right.
a rainbow that you go on to critique throughout the book. I just think it's such a rich way to start, and a generous way where I'm sure that the readers who are listening tonight can relate. Like, we all have our place that we step into.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
difference between an idea and a full experience of
Right. I
the
mean,
liberation process.
because for me, I felt like, and I think for queer folk, trans folk, all of us, gender, sexual, divergent folk out there, I think we come to the realization of that part of our identity and we're like, oh God, if we have another type of identity, blackness, poverty, like these other things, then we're out there like searching for our place. I can't be by myself in this. I can't be the only queer person, right? But you feel like that in your town or in your school, right? So you feel like that. And for me, when I didn't understand things, I came from a family of readers. And so I would always turn to books. Like somebody has thought about this before even from a young age, I was like, so let me go and try to figure out like, what does that mean? I know that I like girls, but what does it mean to be a lesbian? I found this book in that Ann Arbor bookstore and it was called So You Want to Be a Lesbian? I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was like in the 90s.
I
Have
have
you
seen the
seen that book? Isn't it absurd? It's so
book.
absurd. And so like I'm like, what? And so on the front is this kind of it's the same woman on the front and in the back. But in the back, she's like masked all of a sudden. And then in the front, she's like,
They
yeah.
only
And I'm
had one
like,
model.
yeah, yes. It's like, what is this? And so, then you start going into queer spaces. And I assumed that as queer people who are so scrutinized, who are surveyed, right? There's so much surveillance around our identities from parents to churches. I just had the expectation that when I entered queer spaces like nightclubs, bars, pride parades, that I wouldn't deal with racism. I really felt like, I mean, as a young 16-year-old queer, I felt like, what? And I did. I had this idea that queer and trans people had sophisticated notions of identity just because I saw ours as sophisticated, right? Or better. You know what I mean? So like, and so like I felt like that. And then over and over again, I kept having these things. I mean, some of my most violent racial encounters are in queer spaces, not in what would be perceived as mainstream society, not what would be, we see these viral videos going to the grocery store and all these people kind of accosting folks in public. No, it's always been like the really intrusive questions about my hair, um, erasing my queer identity because of my blackness, right? Assuming I'm there with my um gay male best friends and I'm really like this straight black woman. So even being
Mm.
suspicious of me, like, why is your straight tail in this club? And it's like, girl, I am not straight. What are you getting at? And so like that just kept happening. And then I talk about this in the book, especially me hanging out with my good Judy J and who I hosted the podcast with. And me and Jay would just go everywhere together. And there was always this assumption that we were some kind of couple. And I'm like, y'all can't tell he's a butch queen and I'm gay. Like, I didn't understand what was making them not see the queerness. And so then I'm like, okay, so it's the blackness.
Yeah.
And so there is some kind of connection and it's kind of almost this idea of queerness or trans identity is somehow synonymous with whiteness. And then I kept seeing it in queer media. I kept seeing it in the promotion for same-sex wedding campaigns. Everybody was in an interracial couple. There were no just a Black lesbian couple together. I'm still looking for the Black lesbian couple romantic relationship outside of Lena Waithe,
Right.
who also identifies as a Black lesbian, right? So Lena has been a gift in
Yeah.
terms of that, right? And it's not somehow having any kind of attitude about interracial unions. I love it, right? I just wondered and began to ponder, why am I only seeing this in relationship to lesbians? Because if you think about Blackbird, if you think about all the gifts that Ian Patrick Polk has given us, like with his representation of Black gay men in films and their scenarios from Noah's Ark. I
Mhm.
hear now he's like an executive producer for P Valley. If that ever comes back, it's like never coming back.
We're
Um,
waiting.
yeah, we hate it. And so like, but yeah, those kinds of things happened, and I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to write about it because I'm like, this can't just be something that has happened to me. And then once I started looking into it from Marlon Riggs, exquisite documentarian, Black queer ancestor, amazing. And in his Tongues Untied, he talks about leaving the South, couldn't wait to get to San Francisco, couldn't wait to get to the Castro, couldn't wait to get to the neighborhood so he could really come into his identity. And he gets there and encounters more racism than he did in Alabama.
Yeah.
And from the characterizations in the cartoons from back in the day to those types of things, and Baldwin especially, right, who wrote about this, saying, I don't think, and this is Baldwin's genius, not mine, but I quote it in the book, but he said, I don't think gay people, white gay people, or gay people in general are not in any better position to treat Black people fairly than any other part of society. And so I wanted to reiterate, though, Pat Parker, right, who Black lesbian poet, phenomenal, BFFs with Audre Lorde. Were they BFFs or just like really, really close?
They were very, very close. They considered each other sisters and more than sisters. Audre Lorde said it's like loving a part of my own self.
Oh, yes. So I love it. So like, and Pat Parker was going off, right? In her book Movements in Black, where she's talking about not being able to bring her whole self. Lorde talked about not being able to bring her whole self. So some part of self has to be rendered visible or muted. And I just felt like, come on, y'all, like in LGBTQ communities, in queer spaces, the way that our communities are being attacked and have been attacked consistently, right, politically. And now, especially these last 4 years, where that attack is very concerted and concentrated and heavy, we cannot fight that. right? We can't fight the Heritage Foundation and all of these folks if in our communities we have like bias, bigotry, and animus. And the fact that they're making our trans sibs like some kind of political liability. And folks, it's like, well, what about the drag show? So there's that kind of disconnect where like you have cis gays only caring about anti-drag bills, anti-nightclub bills, when they're anti-trans bills and anti-trans healthcare bills. It's like crickets. That is a problem. And then we see the reality now of folks now in this current administration who are cis gay folks, cis gay white folk, and they have no political or social investment in queer and trans communities. And in fact, it's the very opposite for their own personal gain, right? So I wanted to talk, it's like a mashup. In this book, I talk about all those things. There's a deep investment in making it seem as if one, queer issues and trans issues are siloed issues. So they're like, you know, like we're in every community, so every issue is our issue. So that I wanted to make that clear because it seems like reporters and journalists, and even within our own directed queer media, folks are saying, oh my God, the drag bill, or oh my God, same-sex marriage is on the table, or oh my God, it's like, well, we care about what's going on with war as well. We don't like genocide, right? We got LGBTQ people worldwide. Right. It's not like, how in Real Housewives where Marlo said Candy, they don't live on Candy in Atlanta. And it's like, no, we worldwide. So LGBTQ people worldwide. It ain't just in the United States, and it's not just in these particular pockets. So poverty is our issue. Healthcare is our issue. Yes, marriage is an issue. Yes, nightlife is an issue. But so is genocide. So is war. So is us having to say so in how our tax dollars are spent in those ways, right? We care about all those things, reproductive justice. Um, all those things affect all of us. And so I wanted to make that clear. And I also wanted to make clear that Blackness and queerness can actually be housed within the same body, and really kind of remind folks about our brilliant just our brilliant Black ancestors, Black queer and trans ancestors that have come before us, that have laid such foundational work in relationship to almost everything, to community work, to the archive, to basically meeting one's direct needs. Like mutual aid now is this kind of thing, but we and I mean, so we've always
Been doing
done,
that, right?
yes, yes, and that translates into multiple communities, right? Also Black communities. But I felt like, I wanted to talk about Blackness and queerness simultaneously, because often it is like that. We talk about Blackness, and there's this assumption that cishet. Blackness is cishet, and queerness is white. And so I wanted to do that at the same time wanting to address that this like real urgency for us to get rid of that, to shed the bigotry and bias, to shed the racial animus, to get rid of this like so tired. I mean, transphobia, anti-trans is so tired.
It's so tired. And I think you
Oh,
do such a great job throughout the book of making it so clear that it's self-destructive for any member of LGBTQ community to reproduce these forms of oppression, and for any organization, and for any media project, and for any entertainment outlet. But like
yes.
it's profound. And I wanted to just ask you before, I know the people who are listening are going to have amazing questions too, but I wanted to just ask you about, we were talking a little bit earlier about some of the response to your book, and the accountability and the empowerment, that because you're not skirting around it, and you're not just having to be conceptual. You're like, this is not working. This is what
Yes.
needs to happen. And so I'm excited to hear how you've seen people responding to what you teach in this book.
Oh no, yes. And book signings and book talks are the best. Especially in person where you really get to hear people's stories, and you get to talk to them. They get to have, ask you questions. And so a lot of folks who've read the book have said that they see themselves in this. They too have had experiences with either racism or transphobia in LGBTQ spaces. And they didn't really know how to respond, and they didn't really know where that came from. And also realizing that it's not somehow just contemporaneous, realizing that this has been an issue in our community for a long time. And so that's been a response. Other responses are a lot of readers love the ally accomplice breakdown that I have because the allies were getting on my nerves and wearing me out. Yeah, like especially at the nightclub, like Missy. When she was performing in drag. So my partner, my wife Missy, is a former entertainer. She's a drag king. Um, we would be at the nightclub, and child, all these allies, right? So they'd be straight, mostly straight women. Child, they get up on the stage. They start dancing with the entertainer. I mean, the MC was always like, "This isn't a personal concert. This is a drag show, right?" So, but yes, like yes, yeah. So, like for them, allyship meant showing up, celebrating you, and complimenting you, not having any kind of critical awareness of being a guest in a space, not being any kind of like gratitude of spirit that you're welcomed in this space and that you are going to do continued work and advocacy, right? But coming in the space, dancing on the stage, not doing the tip line properly, and to add insult to injury, wearing your I'm chosen marriage sash in the gay club when gay people couldn't get married.
Wow.
Right? I mean, so like just that kind of just lack of self-awareness. And so I'm like, you need to have an investment in queer liberation because it is tethered to your own freedom.
That's
And
true.
so I wanted to, and that's what an accomplice is. They recognize one, their humanity in others. And two, they recognize that we are all in this together. We're all in this together and we have to support one another and do those things. It can't just be something where you get to come to gay clubs and celebrate. And then when anti-trans and anti-queer laws are introduced, you say nothing. You're not marching. You're not even correcting your own family or community around their casual homophobia. But you can't wait to get up in a gay person's face talking about, I love gay people. You know what I mean? I just love them. And they're like, it's so much fun. It's like, girl, if you don't go on, we don't need the compliment. We already know
We
we're the truth.
know.
We know that. That's what I said. We know that. Don't do that. Okay. I mean, I saw the same thing in white allyship, right? Coming to the black meeting or the black event and going on and on about how much you love black people, but you got a racist granddaddy. Don't nobody want to hear all that.
Right.
It's like go and tell them how much you love black people. Oh, you're not going to do that. Oh, okay, so you're okay. There's no investment. This is some type of pastime. And I felt like the term, and not to say that there aren't somehow real allies out there, but the ones that were showing up in the spaces I'm in were not and hadn't gotten the message. And the ones who were, right, who were really genuinely committed, were fine with the term accomplice, right? Because they already knew that that's exactly what it means. It means that we have an investment together. And we know this, right? We know that cis and straight communities benefit from LGBTQ communities because we as a community offer expansive notions of family. We
Mm-hmm.
offer expansive notions of what it means to be in community. I mean, now it cracks me up because I watch that show Love is Blind, right? And it wears me out because I'm like, girl, but at the same time I watch it. And what I've been noticing recently is every straight couple says my person.
Mm.
So we were a wide. That's what I'm saying. It's like so we're supposed to expect that cis and straight communities came up with my person.
Right.
As a right, but you love the term, don't you? Don't you love it? The straight children love it, and that's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with the expansion of identity, the expansion of love, of seeing other human beings, of seeing other people. I don't understand the fear attached to that at all, and so yeah, like each community benefits from one another. And so it would really behoove us to fight alongside and with each other than to do this to each other, right? So I really wanted, especially now, it's like critical. I mean, I think I looked up the ACLU tracker and I think it's been like 800 bills, if I'm correct. It's
Yeah,
something
it's
outrageous.
up there. It's up there. Yeah.
And it's only February.
Yeah.
So I feel like, oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important. And one of the reasons that I feel that your book is so important is that all those 800 laws, right? All of that is narrative work, right? The law is a narrative. It's trying to tell a story. It's trying to create a villain. That's
Yes.
us, right? Our,
Yes, that's
trying
us.
to characterize our community as harmful, when we know what's actually harmful, right? We know that those who are plundering the earth and making it impossible to breathe and
Mm.
gutting the government and all of this, we know what harm actually is.
Right, what it looks like, what
Right.
real harm is. Yeah.
And I think that the way that you offer the clarity of this narrative here, like this is what it is and this is where we can see it, and you give people spaces where they can see it in popular culture, in their own lives, in their organizations. And yeah, I just really feel like, I mean, this should be a book that's on the shelf of every single organization that says they're
Oh,
about
thank
anything to do
you.
with liberation of any type. I think that people should be calling you when they realize that they really don't know what they're doing when it
Thank
comes to
you.
being accomplices. Um, before we, oh, okay, yeah, it's almost time for questions. So if you are listening, think of your questions and you can put them in the Q&A box and we'll be excited to engage them. But before that, I wanted to ask you, so we have folks who are here who decided to come to this book club, who care about our communities, the longevity of our communities, the beautiful immersion of this museum that we're all excited about and excited to be on the ground floor of. And I'm wondering if you could, we don't know exactly who all these people are, right? I'm sure it's a range of people who came for beautiful reasons. And but if you could tell them what you hope they will be empowered to do by listening to you speak, by reading this book, what would be kind of your assignment for them, or even your blessing for them as they continue to go back into this world that you've described where we are urgently needed?
Yeah, that is such an excellent question. First, yes, thank you everyone who's come tonight. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And I hope you get to check out the book. It's in hardcover, it's an audiobook, it's soon to be in paperback. But after reading the book, right, and processing it, and gleaning from it what you can, I think it's to just my thing as an educator has always education, but not in the formal sense, in the storytelling and sharing sense. I think that makes the most headway, or at least it creates an inroad for more understanding and even further communication. So if you're a person that's in any kind of privilege in your identity, whether that's a cis identity, whether that's a white identity, whether that's an able-bodied identity, right? Whatever kind of privilege you sit right in, or you have a seat in, right? um use that to start a conversation, use that to check transphobia, right? If you are cis gay and someone else is a cis gay and they're using this, what they think is casual transphobia, and they don't think it's trans animus, correct them, check them, enlighten them, share with them that, one, conversations lead to, and stereotypes and conversations lead to legislation. So people thinking that they can be casually sexist or casually transphobic, those biased and bigoted attitudes end up turning into actual laws and legislation. So I think that there's that. I think that that's one of the main things that we can do when we hear animus, when we hear bigotry in our own community, check it and say, hey, where is that coming from? Or what do you mean by that? Um, or just even ask them a question. You don't have to like lecture them and curse them out or right, but just ask them like, hey, what's up with that? So you don't like trans people? Really? Why? And more often than not, people are like, well, they don't even know. They
Mhm.
can't even name it, right? All they're doing is parroting someone else that they heard, who they feel like love them and who they respect, right? That's it. So our human relationships to one another can be very powerful and really can enact and affect change. And it's just as simple as interrogating a person about that bias and about that animus. I mean, you can also participate in mutual aid. There's like a number of mutual aids that I talk about in the book that are very, and look up the work of the folks that I talk about in the book because it's not just critique in the book, it's also um forms of advocacy that I kind of talk about and delve into, like they're doing it the right way, right? This organization, right? So I name a lot of that. This scholar, this group of scholars, right? These folks are kind of are not kind of, but definitely in alignment with what our ancestors imagined and envisioned for queer liberation for our communities. So that I would say that that's what I'd like for them to think about the ways that they can create more connection in our community and push past that kind of bias, those bias attitudes that folks think are harmless.
I love that. I love that so much, and especially your guidance for us to look at our areas of privilege, to
Yeah.
really act from those places. I'm thinking about, Audre Lorde would get into it with her close white friends, some people that she considered to be chosen family who she really loved, and she would be like, "How come when somebody is doing something racist, y'all look to me like I'm supposed to be the one to respond to it? Like I'm the one being harmed by it. Like y'all should be the ones step
Yeah,
up first to respond to that, right?" Or,
definitely.
and she's like, "What's happening when I'm not in the room?" Or y'all like, "Well, I wish Audrey was here to tell them off. But since she's not, this racist statements is gonna stand, you know?"
It's just gonna fly. And because in all honesty, if white racism is interrogated from a white person, right? If this idea of white racism is now being interrogated by another white person, folks are going to listen and their ears are going to be much more open than that. Same thing if a cis man is trying to check another cis man about their misogyny or around their sexism. They are going to be like, what? But if a woman is like, don't use the B word and right, they're like, girl, right. Again, women are sensitive. Black people always talking about race. So it's always reduced. And so that's just a way that we can, our humanity is tied up in one another. And so yes, if you are in fact anti-racist and don't hold racist animus, check racism then. It shouldn't be a difficult thing. Like, hey, hold
Right.
up, what'd you say?
You're bringing the
Hold
space
up.
into alignment with yourself, right?
Yes, yes, because now that racist act should be harming your own.
Hmm.
It should be like creating a visceral reaction in your ontology, like, you know. And yes, I mean, and so that's how I see it. And we have to advocate for one another in all the ways we can. And that might not be able to be financial, and that might not be able to be that you're going to open up an LGBTQ center and right, or you're going to donate to a campaign, but you certainly are in community with other people, and you certainly know people who hold bigoted and biased attitudes, and you've been sitting around them and not saying nothing. And so I feel like you can say something now, right? So long as there is I don't want anybody to encounter any kind of like violence, like physical violence or anything like that. But, recognize whether it's safe for you to just pose an honest question to that person. Like, why do you feel this way? What happened? What experience have you had with this person, that identity? Where does it come from? And 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, my daddy said it. I don't know, I just grew up that way. Or, so there is actually no critical thought to the bigotry, which points out the matter that bigoted attitudes are these kind of thoughtless, parroted things and not real or true deep investments. It's just another way for people to perform identity.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, we have a good question here. This question from H. Hughes. Can you talk about citation practices inspired by writing with, about Black queer feminist scholars? How can folks better cite, contextualize, and incorporate these voices into their writing? I love that question.
I do too. Thank you for that question. And yes, I cite.
You
Um,
really do.
I cite a lot, in this book, and it is to me a part of the citation method is a part of the Black feminist tradition.
Mhm.
And so because of that, and because of the work I do, I always try and look for the idea that I have in my head, and I look who's thought of it first. Who thought of it before me? That's also like a vibe. Like it can't be no old racist, you know what I mean? We're usually not gonna, it's not gonna be like anything like that. But yeah, I always seek to uncover, recover. Um, and to be honest, I think that really what really got me was in grad school, I encountered Beverly Guy Sheftall's Words of Fire,
Mm,
where she does that extensive archive and collection
yes.
of all of these Black feminist ancestors and like it seems like pulls out their very best essay. I mean, to put in this magnum opus anthology. And so that paying attention to the scholars, thinkers, creatives, artists, someone has said it in another way, and we definitely, I think, as any kind of, like, again, artists, writers, we have to be intentional about bringing those voices to the forefront alongside our voice, because we get our voice from those voices.
That's
It
right.
to me is, it doesn't even make any sense not to. um but yeah, like, I mean, you have to do it, because it's like, well, I'm gonna just write this, I ain't gonna cite Bell Hooks. Well, Bell Hooks is the reason why I'm even writing this, and
Right.
Beverly got shut. Right. So these folk are the reason, they're the ones, like in college, I took the first class I took that like just was like, what is this? It was some Black feminist class. And I've been a mess ever since. I've been
I've
hooked.
never been the same.
Never been the same. You're hooked. You're like, what? I mean, somebody is seeing me and doesn't even know me. Somebody's written about me and doesn't even
Yes.
know me.
And that's the
Right.
thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the way that what you do here is it's like the textual form of a community, a communal ethic that you already live. And you're right. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like actually understanding that we're not alone, we're not individuals,
Yeah.
we are part of something so big and
Yeah.
so creative and so audacious and so inspiring, and we just want to bring everybody else with us, like
Yes.
that's what I would say. I mean, I know it's like citation practice and whatever. Are you using MLA or using Chicago or whatever, but it's at its core what I see in your citation practice, and I'm glad we have this question because I want everybody to do this, because it's not just in books, it's also in life, the way that you've
Yeah.
done it today, of the people that you've named, and the
Yeah.
attitude that you've given. I think that we become so much more powerful when we actually situate ourselves in the abundance of the movements, the legacies, that all of that makes us possible, that we're always in conversation with.
Yeah, like, because we have to be like, there's no way that I feel like we could do the work without it. Like, my preferred citation style is Chicago, right? I can do all the styles, but I like Chicago for that very reason, especially like the notes. Like, so to make sure, like, because what I want to say is, yes, this is my idea, and yes, I'm saying it in a way that it hasn't been said. But trust and believe there's a foundation and a blueprint in which I'm working from and working with,
Mhm.
right? Because I mean, so sometimes you be writing and you be hearing Morrison, you be hearing them, and they're with you, so they have to be there. Like they have to, they have to
Yeah.
appear. Yeah, I mean, and you do such wonderful citation work in that way, Alexis. And it's, I mean, it's just, it's poetic almost the way that you do that, so I love your citation practice as well.
I appreciate that. I mean, it is a litany. It's our gratitude,
Yes.
it's our love, it's our prayer because it's there's just I mean, and I think that that's part of what your book can offer to the people who are listening who haven't read it yet or who are reading it and are going to recommend it to someone else. And you said it, right? You said I know I can't be the only one, and you didn't want other people to feel alone who are having these experiences, and it's that impulse. There were people who thought of us, but they didn't know it was us, in that
Yeah.
way, and that's why we're not alone. And that power is something that I would say, especially in this time where those 800 laws and
Mhm.
all of these reprehensible attacks on immigrants and on everything that's good about life, it seems like,
Everything
um, are
daily.
trying to
Oh,
have us feel alone and isolated
yes.
and disconnected from the source of life. And we are, in fact, the source of life, right? So remembering that connection, this is what Audre Lorde was talking about, that once I know that I'm not just some individual person that if they fire me, if they
Yeah.
if they deport me out of this country, if they silence me or exile me or even kill me, that like that's over. I'm actually part of a much bigger energy that they can't
Yeah.
do that to, right? That is a completely different that's how you get that Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera
Yes, that's how you
type
do it. And it
action.
is. And that's always been a part of our blueprint. And again, when it came to LGBT organizing, right? Sylvia is organizing with the Young Lords, organizing with the Black Panther Party for self-defense. I mean, their idea around star feeding people, responding people to people's
Yeah.
direct needs comes out of the Black Panther Party's like breakfast programs, right?
Yeah.
So they utilize, like you talk about Compton Cafe, or you talk about the Dewey's Lunch Counter, you talk about the Black Cat Tavern. I talk about all of these spaces of unrest, and and it's, I don't want to say like uprisings that happened before Stonewall, that are also revelatory. And so like all of that they're borrowing from civil rights strategies and movement work in that way. So um there's just so much communication around how to keep our community safe, how to keep one another safe, and how to actually thrive, if we are able to be with one another in a real, authentic way. Um, and bigoted attitudes, discriminatory attitudes, and animus like doesn't promote that. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the daily terror, right? I feel like it was like several months ago, I was in Cali with Esther Amra, and she said, um, it's emotional terrorism every day. Every day that
Hmm.
we turn on the television. Um, it's just it is every day. It's an assault um on our humanity and our ontological like
Exactly.
existence. And it wants us to be scared. It wants us to go into our houses. It wants us to just be with our little family units. It doesn't want us to have our chosen family now, right? So it wants us to do that and make us feel completely disconnected from one another. And so let's use, right, trans people not only as a political liability because we actually hold anti-trans sentiment, but let's use trans people, right? So when we take away their rights, we'll be able to take away everybody else's.
Exactly.
Essentially, let's use immigrants. So we take away their rights and then everybody else follows along, right? And so they don't want us to think about that. What they want us to think about is, oh, well, I'm not an immigrant. Well, I'm not trans. Well, I'm not Black. Well, I'm not,
Right.
right? So I mean, why would I have an investment if those things that are currently being terrorized are not me? But what we
Mhm.
have to recognize is they are you, right?
Exactly.
They,
Exactly.
they are you. Because if that happens to a group that is designated as undesirable, pretty soon this idea of being designated undesirable is going to affect almost every group that's not rich, wealthy, white, cis, right?
And even some
So
of the people who are.
at that part too, right? Because them
Who aren't
gays,
saying the
then
right
they
thing.
they gonna be thrown out. So them gays up in that,
Right.
yeah, they like, girl, thanks for your help, goodbye,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the things I love so much about you and about this work is that you, I mean, the interconnectivity is, it's more than strategic, right? It's like the reality that somebody who's being transphobic around me, I'm
Mhm.
not a person of trans experience, but they don't want me to be free. You know, like the exact fear and policing and othering that's happening is saying like, wait, so you don't think that we should be able to actually love ourselves and be who we are?
Yeah.
That's what you're
Yeah.
saying when you say something transphobic, right?
That's exactly what you're saying. And one of my favorite chapters, I feel like it's the fourth or fifth chapter, but it's called The Stakes is High.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to me a meditation on that very thing. And I deal with this particularly when it comes to that of Black trans women. And I'm not a person of trans experience, but trans people are my Stone family, honey, and me, just along the way, like coming into gay life, being gay, and carrying on and running amok. When I was young, I mean, it was non-binary folks and trans folk who held me down,
Absolutely.
who let me know how worthy I was of being free and who I was, and so it was just disgusting to me to see what they did to CC McDonald. And so I talk about that and I talk about her case. But I also talk about these kind of people who say that they're feminists. I would argue they're not feminists, but like folks like J.K. Rowling, Azalea
Mm.
Banks, right, who hold all this trans. I mean, now Nicki Minaj, right? And I'm thinking to myself, and this is what I deal with in that chapter, The Stakes is High, is what is the investment and denying trans women womanhood and denying their personhood, right? Why are you so invested in this, seeing as how the statistics when it comes to, and that's what I, right, the statistics when it comes to folks who get murdered by their partners, lovers, people that they trusted. I mean, Black cis women, Black trans women, it's like, right?
It's us.
It's us. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So it's really not choice for us to be like, well, I'm this kind of woman and you're right. I mean, how is that beneficial and how is that addressing intimate partner violence at the rates that we have it? I mean, it's basically at epidemic rates. Murder, right? Femicide. So like what is going on with that? So why is it when it comes to ideas of womanhood, they're all of a sudden narrowed when trans women, when folks want to talk about trans women specifically, right? And so I talk about that in the book and how it's not just that we need to be invested in one another um, because of the domestic violence or intimate partner violence, but because of freedom, right?
Exactly.
Because of bodily autonomy, right? I think that
Right.
folks want folks to be able to do what they want to their bodies, right?
Right.
So the cis women ain't, and they're not living for the Handmaid's Tale effect,
Right.
right? So like denying, so like where do you think it's gonna get you, right? So you can deny bodily autonomy to a group of people, but somehow expect all the freedom for yourself. Child,
Not
you're
how
a
it
mess.
works.
That's a mess. And I think that this is what empire does. They separate, they segregate, and then they break down to where you look for the community, and all of a sudden the community is not there. And the
Yeah,
community has narrowed even further because of that. But that's what empire wants you to do. They want you to infight, right? Let's
yeah.
infight one another. Let's argue about misogyny. Let's argue, right? And we'll never get up there, right?
Right. Like
Putting
in the
us.
meantime, we taking all your rights.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly.
Well, I want to share a beautiful affirmation here from Jason Gardner. It says, "Thank you, Dr. Story, for the gift that is this book. One of my favorite parts is where you talk about the co-opting of Black queer culture without a Black queer politic."
Yes.
So, yes, underlining that.
Thank you, Jay.
And then we have a question from someone. It says, "I am a Black woman who is not queer, who is for all my Black people and BIPOC folks who are dedicated to living the truth against the lies of white supremacy and white supremacy power thinking. I'm so glad to hear from you today. I see and feel the anti Blackness and racism from a lot of the queer white community in the community in which I live. I
Mm,
feel because I'm not queer, any criticism I have is twisted as homophobic or transphobic. Can you
mm,
speak to more ways straight Black people can support our BIPOC LGBTQ folks?"
that's
Question.
interesting. Yes. No, I think that it would be fine to interrogate your friend group, or not interrogate. I feel like interrogate sounds like police station and all this, but to ask just to ask them out of curiosity why they somehow feel it necessary to say these things or do these things. I don't think it would be misconstrued as homophobic or transphobic, but you could certainly preface it with this, like, "Hey, I don't know how you're about to take this, okay, but I feel like I have to say something. But please know I'm not being homophobic, I'm not being transphobic, but I wanted to ask y'all a question." Like something like that, right? So it doesn't have to be like, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" Right? It doesn't have to be this kind of, right? Just when you see that it's safe and you sense that, you might be able to get an answer, might be able to help your friends think about it.
Yeah, I think that that's so wise, and I think that and then there's also, the guidance, of people who you're wanting to be accountable to. The person who's asking this question wants to be accountable to BIPOC LGBTQ folks, So I think that there's the critique of maybe white LGBTQ people's racism that you can raise. And there's
Mhm.
also following the leadership, which you're doing right now by asking by asking Kyla this question of BIPOC LGBTQ folks. I think that like those two things go together.
Yes.
There, I won't name a particular entertainer, but I've seen a particular entertainer who I feel like really missed an opportunity for
Mm,
solidarity with trans folks of color, getting caught up in how angry he was by being policed by white trans folks.
mm,
And then he participated in erasing the fact that, hello, there are trans people of color. So um, maybe you
wow.
know who I'm talking about, maybe you don't, but I'm going to move on about
Yeah.
artists that we want to uplift, because this question is asking, you've mentioned multiple books and artists. Out of curiosity, what was the most transformative piece of media for you when it came to thinking about intersecting identities?
Oh, wow. Hmm.
Probably hard to choose.
And this is, no, this, I mean, yes, because I'm a TV,
There are
like,
many.
oh my God, TV, movies, films. Oh man. So, well, one, I feel like, okay, top three. Okay, so I got Color Purple.
Mm.
When I saw The Color Purple, because again, Suge's relationship to Celie,
Mm.
uh, I'm like, whoa. And at first I don't even know that Color Purple is a novel, so I assume this is like a period piece and it's like factual and historical. So I was like, dang, there's gay people, bisexuals, there's bisexuals back in the day. You know what I mean? So like that piqued my curiosity about what it would mean to be at that time I'm a black girl, but then also a black girl who liked girls. So I thought that was Women in Brewster Place, set top second. That's my ultimate favorite. Gloria Naylor, right? And the two, oh my God, run up and down the street. Okay, that's like my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if y'all have not seen Women in Brewster Place, because I know some y'all might be too young to have seen it, but please try to find it on Tubi or something. Um, let's see. So Color Purple, Women in Brewster Place. Um, what was the other one that I was going to say that was my third, the transformative piece when it came to, oh God, what was the third? Oh my God, and I lost it. But those two especially, I mean, those were really kind of foundational bedrock things. Now, let me see, contemporaneous wise, what recently, well, I loved Lena Waite's Master of None, season
Mhm.
5. Um, and I really like Lena Waithe's 20s. It was a
20s,
series.
yeah.
20s is a series. It was her series on BET, and it was only, I think, like 2 seasons or 3. It was like total disservice. That's all they do. They come up with great stuff and then they cancel it for no reason. Like Lovecraft
Why?
Country. Yeah, it's like everybody's loving it. Everyone lives. And then you turn on the TV and then it's like not there no more. It's like, oh, it drives me nuts. But yes, I feel like 20s is the first show I've ever seen where there's a black mask lesbian protagonist. I mean, she's the main character, Hattie.
Mhm.
She names her Hattie at that.
Yeah.
And she's in the film industry, and then her two best friends are these straight black girls. And so all of those identities are at play, right? So a lot of times her straight good Judies have to kind of check their casual homophobia, even though that's their home girl. So you think about that. There's a lot of stuff going on in that series. I think it's very, very well done.
Yeah.
And I love it. P Valley right now, if it ever returns. I
Okay.
loved that.
Oh, I love that show.
Um, and I
Shout out to
also,
Katori Hall. Just
yes, right? I mean, I love P Valley. I mean, Uncle Clifford, oh, knock it off. That's like the best character I've seen since Lafayette from True Blood.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. So there is stuff out there, and I talk about that. I like actually in the book, in the afterword, I actually name shows that are actually getting it right. Like I talk about the L word generation Q, the reiteration of the L word actually gets it better. I don't say get it right, I say get it better. But that first L word, I bring up how over time our art and our media has gotten better, but it's gotten better because these black queer creatives are creating it. And so I just feel like,
Exactly.
yes. And so I just feel like it should be more, right? The reason why there's such tension I find with lesbian content or queer content is because it's already limited already. And then if it doesn't involve any kind of intersecting identity or racial identity or anything, you never get to see it. So I do name those things in the book, but those are the top tier from my past and contemporaneously.
Oh, that's so good. And folks are asking for that in the chat. Everybody wants to, wants to read these and watch these. And
Oh my God, yes,
yes,
please watch
I
them.
second every single one of those recommendations. Um,
Oh, and then Jay was talking about in that third chapter, We Ain't Having a Ball. I talk about the Black House ball scene. I also talk about Lovecraft Country and that scene from the ball, but I talk about how I was getting so tired of witnessing folks use Black queer speak, which generates from the ball scene and Black butch queens and trans women, right? So shade, reading, fierce,
mhm,
and now, right, everybody does this,
right,
right? So my thing is, this is cute and you can do this, but don't be transphobic doing it.
right.
Don't do that. Don't be transphobic doing it. So, like one of the examples I have is the woman Marlo in Real Housewives, where Marlo constantly refers to herself in the third person. She calls herself Muva, Muva.
Mhm.
Yes, and she identifies as a black straight woman, right? She's good friends with a lot of gay men. But as soon as she got upset with Sheree, Marlo said, "That's why you ain't got no men now, because you hang around all them F words. You ain't nothing but a F hag." Okay. So you could say mother and she's not going to do this and she and mother right. And this is a lot, right? We see this in pop
Mhm.
culture and in pop media. So you're using all of this language and this gesturing to make yourself more interesting, more marketable, right? And getting more coins in your pocket because of it, Tamar Braxton. All right.
Mhm.
Get your life, get your life. I mean, you're saying the term wrong. Get your life, get your life. Right. And then she does gay baiting, right? Like months after that. So it's like, stop using the words and the language, right? If you don't also have a Black queer liberationist politic. That's why the words and the language is so infectious. It's so wonderful. And it's so much fun to talk like that, right?
Mhm.
Because it's a freedom in the speech.
Because
And
it's
so if you're
freedom.
not committed to the freedom, stop doing it.
Right.
So that's what Jay was talking about in the book where I
Mhm.
talk about that because yeah, I love that ballroom is all over, that everybody knows it, right? That people are saying it because I feel seen. I've been talking like this for years, right? So now everybody's talking like this. So I'm like, yes, but then they have they're anti-trans or
Right.
right? Or it's a laws against queer people and they're like, who cares? Right? But they're saying these things and using these terms. It's like knock it off.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Which means we've come back around, right? To
Yes.
the reality of what the life-saving ritual is, and
Yes.
not the flat symbol of a fake rainbow. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for the love and generosity of this book, for the love and generosity of your life. I'm so glad that this gets to be at the foundation of this museum that is celebrating generations and generations of our people. And I'm grateful to the organizers. I'm grateful to everybody who made the right decision to have this be a part of your evening so you could leave inspired. That's the last thing I'll say. Like, we cannot feel bereft with this. I mean, you lift up so many models and you make it completely clear that we have abundance to draw from. Our
Yes.
ancestors have made miracles without the things that we now take for granted. And
Sir.
and we have them. And because of you, we can actually directly look back at what they were doing and how they were strategizing. And so it's a real resource and a gift. And I'm grateful to have been able to share with you, really to share you with the people. And is there anything that you want to say else that you want to say before we wrap up?
Yes, thank you all for coming. And Alexis, thank you for your time, for your endorsement of the book, for your
Oh,
phenomenal work and your generosity of spirit. I am so honored to have talked with you tonight. And thank you so much.
yay.
Yay.